Good afternoon. We're going to start. I want to begin this informational hearing on labor, health, and safety issues in California's nail salons. Welcome, everyone. I'm Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez, the chair of the Select Committee on Women in the Workplace, and I want to start by thanking the co-chairs of this hearing, some of whom are here. Nora Campos, the co-chair of the Select Committee on Girls and Women of Color, and also the help that we received from Rob Bonta, the chair of the Assembly Committee on Health, Susan Bonilla, the Assembly Committee on Business and Professions, and Roger Hernandez, the Assembly Committee on Labor and Employment. I'd also like to recognize the staff of their committees and the Women's Caucus for their ongoing support and interest. I appreciate that you're all here today to learn more about this important issue and that we can learn more about this important issue. In May, many of us read the New York Times two-part stories or series on nail salons, and we're shocked by the stories. Now, of course, we've been working on this issue on some regard in California for years, as we'll hear about later. But the extent by which the New York Times documented the stories of wage theft, poverty, language discrimination, and unjust conditions faced by nail salon workers was amazing. Since that publication, over 20% of the nail salons in New York have been inspected. Additionally, the Connecticut Labor Department randomly inspected 25 nail salons and found that all but 2 were violating wage laws. Similarly, a few weeks ago, New Jersey's Department of Labor and Workforce Development issued 225 violations after making just 169 salon visits. We know that there are more than 8,500 nail salons here in California, and our state accounts for roughly 25% of the entire national industry. Their health, safety, and working conditions should be of great concern to all of us. And the articles that came out of New York, as well as subsequent articles in the LA Times, reminded us that it's something we need to continue to be diligent about and look at here in California. We as policymakers have a responsibility to ensure that laws and policies best protect all California workers and conditions. To this end, I look forward to continue to work with Assemblymember David Chu on this issue. As we move forward, we'll hear from him as well. California has strong labor and environmental standards. We have to address any cracks in the system that result in massive wage theft and abuse, in particular industry challenges. Today's hearing is an important start. With that, I'd like to invite Assemblywoman Nora Campos to also make some opening comments.
Thank you, Assemblymember Gonzalez. I'm joined with my colleagues, and we'd like to welcome all of you to this informational hearing. I look forward to today's dialogue that will bring to light important issues with labor practice, health, and safety in California's nail salons. As chair of the Select Committee on the Status of Girls and Women of Color, I am pleased to be working in partnership with Assembly member who chairs the Assembly Select Committee on Women in the Workplace, and also with the chair of the Assembly Committee on Health, Labor, Business, and Professions. The issue we will discuss here today are especially pressing with the most recent lawsuit regarding wage theft in a nail salon that is very close to my district in San Mateo County. Ultimately, I hope we can work together to find concrete solutions to ensure California's girls and women of color and all women in the workforce are not underpaid or exploited. I look forward to your comments and the dialogue that we will have as we interact with the presenters.
Assemblyman Chu.
Thank you very much. And let me first start by thanking the chair of this Select Committee, Assemblymember Gonzalez, for proposing that we pull together this very important hearing, and I know her passion and work in this area, as well as all of the folks who pulled this event together. This is an issue that I have been involved in personally as an elected official now for over 5 years, beginning in 2010 when a group of amazing women representing and advocating for workers, for immigrants, and for environmentalists educated me over a series of months over something that is very obvious, which is when you walk into a nail salon and you smell those toxic fumes, those fumes are coming from products that seem so harmless but are actually quite harmful. Products that include the so-called toxic trio. They contain formaldehyde, which many of you may remember from high school biology is what is used to store frogs that you dissect. They contain toluene. They contain dibutyl phthalate. These are chemicals that have been linked to reproductive health issues, respiratory issues, and even cancer. And I want to thank those advocates who 5 years ago worked with me when I served as the president of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors on what became the first in California law establishing our San Francisco Healthy Nail Salon program, which incents nail salons to do the right thing. We now have 30 establishments that abide by appropriate rules in this area, and we now have 6 jurisdictions in the state of California that abide by these rules. But these issues, as our chairwoman has indicated, have not ended. Over the past 20 years, nail salon services have tripled in our state, generating over $8 billion, a 40% increase in sales since 2010. We have over 8,000 nail salons, over 100,000 nail technicians, and 80% of them are estimated to be Asian American women immigrants, with over 50% of them being of childbearing age. And with this explosive demand, we still have not paid enough attention on the health impact associated with these workplace chemicals. In light of the national discussion, a few months ago, the Healthy Nail Salon Collaborative has really begun another conversation statewide in what we need to do to move this forward. Last week in San Francisco, we convened a working group of advocates and experts in this area. It is my hope, and something that I've discussed with Assemblymember Gonzalez, that from these discussions, colleagues will hopefully be able to move forward a package that we can all work on together to introduce in the next legislative session. I think we can all agree that there should not be hidden cost to polish nails, and as San Francisco's nail salon program says, pretty shouldn't stink. And with that, I look forward to working with all of our colleagues in moving this forward.
Great. This time I know Senator Janet Nguyen wanted to come and make a few comments as well, and we welcome, of course, any of our colleagues from the Senate, but I'm very grateful that you were able to come to our hearing to make some comments as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I really appreciate and thank you for the courtesy of allowing me to attend this select committee hearing and for giving me the opportunity to say a few words today. Some of the comments I'm going to make has already been touched on. California, as mentioned, has more than 8,500 nail salons. There are around 352,000 licensed manicurists and cosmetologists combined. And of that, 80% of them are Vietnamese Americans. Because my district has the largest population of ethnic Vietnamese outside Vietnam, this issue is very close to me. Additionally, I represent over 40,000 licensed cosmetologists who lives in my district. As we move forward with possible policy recommendation from this hearing, the safety of this valuable workforce is of the utmost importance. We must also recognize the valuable contribution of the business owners as job creators in the state that at this particular moment in time is still struggling to meet the employment needs of its residents. I would also like to ask the committee and the members to be mindful of the linguistic and cultural barriers that exist and need to be addressed as we look at any policy changes that would affect this working population and these mom and pop business owners. Some folks might think that all of us Asian look the same or that we share the same language, but we don't, and that's just reality. Vietnamese population is very different linguistically and culturally. So as we move forward, I ask that I will be looking forward to this, to the testimony today, and that I ask that I be a part of any discussion to be helpful and to assist, because you will be affecting 40,000 jobs in my district. And these are the individuals who, most likely don't speak English well, most likely maybe not even be able to, whether read or write in English well or even in their own language. So if you're going to do anything, how do we get to these individuals to get them to know their rights and also, though, to make sure that they still have a job? And so the balance of both is extremely important. And so, again, thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you. On that note, when somebody had asked me, I said I wanted to do something on nail salons. Like I was a worker advocate. That's what I did for a living. And I said, but I have no idea where to start, because this is completely different than organizing Latino workers. It's a completely different culture, language. I went to my nail salon, and tried with very little success to have a discussion with the workers about anything meaningful beyond my children and their children. So thank you for being here, and I think you are such a resource to this discussion, and we will definitely continue to work with you as well.
No, thank you, Madam Chair. You're right, because when in the last few months when we read all the stuff that's going on in New York, I went to the owners and I went to the nail salon, the workers. I went to several places in Orange County, and I just sat down and started talking to them. I said, okay, what is going on? Help me understand the industry. Help me understand, how does it work? What's the issue? How can we help? Because it will become a discussion sooner or later. And, of course, a few months later, here we are. So I warned them. I said, look, it's coming. We just got to make sure we're at the table. And the population that you're talking about is very vulnerable. They can't find any other job at all. This is it for them. And so please, I ask that we are very mindful when we move forward any policy changes.
Thank you. And we have been joined by another one of the co-chairs for this hearing, the chair of the Business and Professions Committee, Assemblywoman Susan Bonilla.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. As you know, in Business and Professions, and we have a number of members of the committee here as well, we deal with the boards that oversee the licensing and the enforcement over many, many businesses here. And barbering and cosmetology just went through our sunset review process. And so I wanted to make sure to share that there are many good developments, I think, happening through the sunset bill that is currently in the Senate, and hopefully will go to the governor's desk. And one of them is the fact that we are requiring the board to actually create a health and safety advisory committee, which will help the board promote safe standards for both industry workers and consumers. And so we have in place something that's going to be new, that's going to be able to learn, I think, from the hearing today. And then we have a mechanism where hopefully we're going to be able to apply what we've learned today right into this newly formed advisory committee. So I think that's encouraging that there's going to be a way to enact some of these recommendations fairly quickly. But we also have looked at issues around language barriers when we have inspections. And when we need to have our inspectors be able to be fluent in the language, or the inspection really isn't being meaningful or being well communicated. And then even testing issues and the language barriers when it comes to testing. These are all issues that the board is grappling with. And in our role in the legislature, particularly through BMP, we give oversight over the board and the Department of Consumer Affairs. So thank you for hosting this very much. Chair Gonzalez, really appreciate it.
Okay, I was going to ask, I figured there would be a few more people I know that want to speak before we start, and we'll go ahead. I'll just start with I just saw Assemblyman Ting wave his hand, so if there's some opening comments.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'll be very brief because I think a lot of the comments have already been made, but I think your observation around nail salons is very appropriate because it's one of the places where actually the owners and the workers work side by side and work together. I was first introduced to this issue back in 2002 when I was executive director of the Asian Law Caucus, and I know that many of the issues that we continue to work on around worker health and safety continue to be long-term issues today. I was very proud to carry legislation last year that really worked with the state to be better about having language access in terms of how they informed nail salons and other businesses in their native languages to make sure that they understood what issues needed to be remediated, what issues they were going on, but also that they could figure out how to address them. And I think that's the one part where I think we can do a much better job as a state is we still are significantly lacking in providing materials in people's native languages, communicating them in a language that they feel comfortable with, and making sure that they really understand how to solve the problem. It doesn't really help us if we find these businesses and we ask them to do things in a language that they don't really understand. And I think we need to be much better, much more customer focused about it. These are businesses that pay into the boards, pay licensing fees. And again, I think we need to do a much better job of servicing them, and just very happy to be here as part of this committee. I do have to apologize. I'm bouncing back and forth between another committee hearing on higher education and UC enrollment. So I apologize if I'm in and out. That's why. Thank you.
Is anyone else interested in opening comments? If not, we'll hear. Ms. Brown.
Thank you. I just wanted
Absolutely.
to say thank you for partnering and us doing all of this together. But I do want to say that I have to also bounce in and out. Yeah. Great subject since I get my nails done, and it's a timely time. Thank you.
Great. With that, we'll start a little housekeeping. There are agendas in the back of the room for anyone who needs one. Each panelist, as they come forward, will have about 4 minutes for prepared remarks. Nikki here will give you the sign it at a minute and a half. There will be public comment at the end of the second panel. We're going to start with our first speaker just to give us a policy overview. And to get it started, that's Catherine Porter. She is the policy director of the California Healthy Nail Salon Collaborative. And she's going to give us an overview of the nail salon policies in California. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Assemblymember Gonzalez and other esteemed legislators. I was going to mention every legislator sitting around the table, but since wonderfully there's so many of you, sorry, I'm not going to take up some of my valuable time to do that, but it's wonderful to see you all here. Again, my name is Catherine Porter. I'm the Policy Director for the California Healthy Nail Salon Collaborative. Our organization was founded in 2005. We comprise about 35 environmental health, EJ, and workers' rights organizations, and of course, members from the nail salon community. Our mission is to ensure the health, safety, and rights of nail salon workers. I was going to provide a brief overview of the demographics, but fortunately, many of you have already done that job for me as far as how many nail salons there are in California. Estimates range from 8,500 to 12,000. There are about 99,000 licensed manicurists, and it's estimated that about 80% of this workforce are Vietnamese immigrants, many of whom are limited English proficient. And the nail industry forms a critical piece of this community's economy. So I want to echo many of the comments made by you all here today. Senator Nguyen, Assemblymember Phil Ting, Assemblymember David Chu, and Assemblymember Bonilla. All of these issues that you raise, it's impressive that you're as well informed as you are. Thank you very much for that. Fair treatment of workers is an important issue for the California Healthy Nail Salon Collaborative. Recently, in conjunction with the United States Department of Labor and Asian Americans Advancing Justice Los Angeles, the collaborative co-sponsored an educational forum for the nail salon workers and owners on labor laws. Attendees voiced enthusiasm for similar forums in the future to clarify labor issues such as, for instance, whether to treat a worker as an employee or as an independent contractor. So our recommendations regarding labor issues is that the California Department of Industrial Relations sponsor similar forums throughout California to ensure greater awareness of nail salon workers' rights and employers' legal obligations to comply with wage and hour law. Exposures to chemicals in salon products is a serious health concern for nail salon workers, yet there is little regulation of cosmetic products. Manufacturers do not have to show safety of a cosmetic to the FDA or any other government agency before it appears on store shelves. And the laws or programs that do exist in California are either poorly enforced or poorly funded. Unlike cosmetics purchased at the retail level, manufacturers of professional cosmetics, such as those used in nail salons, do not have to list the ingredients of that product on the container, hampering nail salon technicians and owners in making informed choices about the products they use. The California Safe Cosmetics Act requires that manufacturers report cosmetics that contain any carcinogen or reproductive or developmental toxicant to the California Safe Cosmetics Program. However, the program is stymied by insufficient resources to enforce compliance by manufacturers. I want to shift quickly to recommendations because I see I'm already running out of time. Some recommendations include, and I'm hoping I'm going to be given a few additional seconds. The legislature should require the listing of ingredients, including fragrance components, on the labels of professional cosmetics, and does otherwise improve access, including language access, to this kind of information for nail salon workers. Penalties for failure to comply with state labeling and other cosmetics laws should be increased, and the cost of pursuing these actions by state agencies should be borne by the manufacturer who violates the law. Permissible exposure limits enforced by Cal OSHA should be revised or developed for such chemicals as methyl ethyl ketone and skin and respiratory sensitizers. And the California Safer Consumer Products regulatory process should focus on nail salon products to ensure safer alternative nail products are formulated for the use of this immigrant women community. And a couple of recommendations for language access. The collaborative has been working with the Board of Barbering and Cosmetology for several years on this issue, and we are very appreciative of the progress that's been made so far. But a couple of recommendations in that regard are, since such a high percentage of manicurists, are Vietnamese, we believe that all correspondence to this group of licensees should just automatically appear both in English and Vietnamese, just sort of as a matter of sort of pro forma. And interpreters should be provided at disciplinary review committee hearings. So in closing, we look forward to working with Chair Gonzalez and other members of the committee, as well as other legislators, organizational partners, and the nail salon community itself to ensure the health, safety, and rights of nail salon workers. And we thank you for convening this important hearing.